joins now. GOP vice presidential nominee, Senator JD Vance. Senator, now, I don't know what that means, because presumably they've been trying to get at the root causes and the really important issues for the last 3.5 years. But what of this new Kamalanomics, the 2.0 that she's going to introduce on the campaign trail to help the average American?
Well, first, Laura, let's laugh at the fact that Kamala Harris is promising to do something if the American people give her promotion that she hasn't been doing for the past 3.5 years as vice president. This is the lie at the heart of Kamala Harris's campaign, that if you elect her, she's somehow going to be different than she already has been in office, where her policies have caused higher grocery prices, higher food prices, and, of course, a wide-open southern border. So we have to say that if Kamala Harris thinks these policies are going to do a lot of good, and, of course, most of them are nonsensical, but if she thinks they're going to do a lot of good, she should try them out now, because she's currently in power, not promise to do something when she's in office in the future that she's not doing when she's in the office in the present. That's number one. The second thing, Laura, is we have to remember Kamala Harris's entire economic program fundamentally boils down to pro-globalism, anti-American workers. She wants to raise taxes on American workers and reward companies for shipping jobs overseas, sometimes subsidize them actively for manufacturing in places like China. And what does Donald Trump want to do? He wants to lower taxes on American workers, penalize China, and penalize companies that are manufacturing overseas instead of hiring and building in the United States of America.
Well,
it's a fundamentally different approach, and I don't think, Laura, that you can build a middle class in this country by allowing the Chinese to steal our entire industrial base. That's what Kamala Harris has done, and that's what she wants to double down on.
Well, but she said yesterday, I believe it was, of course, in a tweet that someone else undoubtedly wrote for her, that she doesn't think U.S. Steel, the company U.S. Steel, should be bought by a foreign entity. You know, Nippon Steel wants to buy it. An American company wants to actually buy U.S. Steel, but you know, the government agency that looks at foreign transactions such as these, no movement yet on that. Do you believe her when she says she wants to protect U.S. Steel from foreign acquisition? And if not, why haven't they done anything on it?
Yeah, well, Laura, if Kamala Harris wants to protect U.S. Steel and keep it U.S. Steel, I wonder if she knows anyone in a position of authority, like maybe the Vice President of the United States. She is currently in a position where CFIUS could block this transaction if the Vice President did something about it. Now, Donald Trump and I have been fighting this transaction since it was announced, but we've been fighting it, me from the United States Senate, and, of course, Donald Trump as a citizen. You cannot do anything, really, except for try to force people like the vice president to act. And again, it just drives home how absurd her entire argument is, Laura. She's trying to say, elect me president, and I'll somehow do all of the things that I haven't done for the last 3.5 years. I just don't think Americans buy it.
Senator, she now has her running mate, Tim Walz, being asked a question about the 6 Israeli hostages killed. Watch his response.
What's your reaction to the 6 hostages being found dead in Gaza?
All right. Thanks, everybody.
He blatantly ignores the question, couldn't even muster a perfunctory response of outrage, shock, and obviously prayers for the families.
Yeah, Laura, it's such a softball, at least to offer sympathies for the innocent people who just lost their lives, in particular an American citizen. But also remember, Laura, the reason these people lost their lives is because Kamala Harris's foreign policy has led to chaos, whereas President Trump's foreign policy led to peace and stability. I actually think this is one of the most important selling points for President Trump's agenda, is when you project American strength. And when you engage in smart diplomacy, you can keep the world from blowing up. Kamala Harris has us on the brink of World War III. The innocent people who died in Gaza are just the tip of the iceberg if we give this person more power. How can we possibly expect her to sit in a room with Vladimir Putin or Xi Jinping or the leaders of the world? She's terrified to sit for a friendly interview, Laura. We cannot trust this person to negotiate on behalf of this country, and she will blunder us into a third world war if the American people will give her promotion. That's why we have to bring back Donald Trump.
There's a real problem that we have right now with military recruiting. I know you know this well. The numbers that they are not hitting off by tens of thousands. So they're basically reducing the number of recruits that they say they need. You know, it's a typical government weasel move. But Senator, are we not getting ourselves into a position under this type of woke leadership of our needing a military draft because of their policies and their handling of the military affairs in general in our country?
It's a very important question, and we really are on the brink of serious readiness issues because nobody wants to put on a uniform and serve in Kamala Harris's military. This is a person who wants the United States Army to be about gender, inclusion, ridiculous diversity politics instead of about serving your country and uniting together as Americans to serve on the same team and defend your nation. She's also, by the way, Laura, a person who wants to blunder us into World War III. And of course, it's not her family that's going to be fighting that war. It's going to be working and middle-class kids across the state of Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. So if you're a person thinking about joining the military, you're probably not going to want to sign up if Kamala Harris is the potential commander-in-chief. We know that we can have a strong military. We just need strong leadership, Laura. And I think that if we want to fix that recruitment problem, the best thing we can do is re-elect Donald J. Trump. People trust his leadership. They also know that a military led by Donald Trump is about what unites us as Americans, and it's not about this ridiculous division of Kamala Harris.
Senator, people, I guess they do these polls and they say, oh, your favorability isn't as high as Tim Walz's. You know, there's a gender gap for your ticket compared to Harris and Walz. How do you go to the undecideds at this point, the shrinking pool of people, and convince them that not only are you serious and you're seriously smart, but you're a regular person? I've known you for a long time. You're really fun. You're really funny. Versus the giggle and vibe show that seems to work for a lot of women voters out there.
You know, Laura, my approach to this is just to get out there and meet as many people as possible. And I know this is Donald Trump's approach, too. We don't do the scripted stuff. We don't only speak in front of a teleprompter. We actually like to get out there and give some unscripted remarks, some press conferences, and also just, you know, go out there and talk to people. And that's what I'm going to keep on doing, Laura. I don't put much stock in the polls, even the polls that show us ahead, and there are a lot of those these days. What I put stock in is the wisdom of the American people and the fact that if we go out there, make our case, don't hide behind a teleprompter, but get out there and meet people. The American people are going to elect me and Donald Trump. I have no doubt about that. We just have to do our work, and we've got 65 days to do it.
We're finding out tonight that Jewish students on campus at Columbia University are feeling under threat, Senator. What will your administration do with President Trump to protect students of all political beliefs and persuasions on college campuses feeling safe?
You know, Laura, it's very simple. We're going to enforce the law. Nobody gets the right to harass their fellow students. Nobody gets a right to set up tent encampments and turn their college campuses into garbage dumps. And nobody gets the right to block their fellow students from attending class. This is not rocket science, Laura. You just need to enforce the law. Whether it's anti-Jewish bigotry or any other form of bigotry, just enforce the law. Make the crazy people protest within the First Amendment and within the legal frameworks that are appropriate. And so long as you do that, these college campuses are going to be fine. What's happened, Laura, is a lot of these administrators, in the name of woke politics, have allowed these college students to break the law, to turn the campuses into garbage dumps, to harass their fellow students. Just stop it. Enforce the law. Let everybody speak their mind, but do it without harassing your fellow students. It's not hard.
Senator Vance, before we let you go, an ultimate sign of desperation over at Salon, it's an online journal, liberal journal, they're upset with your beard. They're preoccupied with their beard. They're not talking about the GDP, you know, and what it means to be a man. Well, Vance portrayed himself as a working man's candidate. His performance has persuaded his supporters that he's rugged everyman, and the beard is one of his most important props. Senator Vance, will you clear this up tonight for everyone watching? Is your beard your best prop?
Well, Laura, here's what I'll say. A few years ago, my wife and I went on vacation. I didn't shave for a few days, and then she said, you know, I like the beard. You should keep it. I, of course, am mainly concerned about an audience of one. Happy wife, happy life. And so long as my wife likes it, the beard is staying, and that's that.
If you shaved your beard, they'd accuse you of just bending to the will of the people on the... Senator Vance, I'm glad you cleared that up. It's really important for us. Senator, thank you so much. Great to see you.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.